Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 16th of June, 2021. Alright everyone, you're probably shocked right now seeing me on camera here if you're watching on YouTube. First time that I have been clean shaven since January 2019, and before that, I hadn't been clean shaven for many years. But I kind of put this picture on Twitter, and I said, I've made a sacrifice to the beard gods, and ETH may resume up only now. And that's just like a bit of a joke, a bit of a meme there. I guess people may be wondering why I actually shaved the beard off. It really was just because I wanted to see what I look like with just a mustache on, and just try a new look out. The beard's obviously going to grow back. It's not like my hair that doesn't grow back, and my beard definitely grows back. It'll take me about probably 3 months to get back to what I was, I guess, like on previous refuels and things like that. But it generally grows pretty quickly. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't really kind of do things and present myself for other people. It's more for myself, and I kind of just wanted to see how it looked. So yeah, sorry if it's a bit of a shock to anyone who hasn't seen my tweet yet. But I'm sure you'll get used to it as we progress through the refuels. And at the end of the day, you're not here for my beautiful face. You're here to learn about Ethereum and kind of stay updated on it. So on that note, let's dive into all the updates from the last 24 hours. So this was really interesting. Coinbase listed 3 new tokens on Coinbase Pro yesterday. Chiliz, Keep Network, and SHIB. Now, I don't have a problem with the other 2, Chiliz and Keep Network. As far as I'm aware, they're part of legit projects. But SHIB. SHIB is one of the dog tokens that everyone kind of like knows and loves. I think besides Dogecoin, SHIB and Akita are the only other 2 that people know of. There's actually a lot more than that. And the reason is because I think SHIB was one of the ones that went up the most and pumped the hardest. And Akita was one of the ones that Vitalik sent to Gitcoin, and Gitcoin owns like a lot of Akita tokens. So I wrote about this in the Daily Gwei newsletter today, but I thought this was quite weird because Coinbase kind of listing, okay, maybe I should give a history lesson here, actually. So Coinbase back in the day had 2 different exchanges, Coinbase, the normal exchange, and dYdX, which is now known as Coinbase Pro. And back in like 2017, they had this thing called the Digital Listing Asset Framework, which was basically a framework full of information that kind of, I guess, stipulated what criteria tokens and coins had to meet to be listed on Coinbase. Now, since then, they have completely thrown that out the window. I think I remember, considering that framework dead when they listed XRP, then they listed Ethereum Classic, then they just they kept listing more and more stuff over time. Now, I don't fault Coinbase for this. I think it's just them responding to competition, because if you think about it, like Binance, FTX, KuCoin, Huobi, OKX, every single offshore exchange you can think of doesn't have to put up with what Coinbase has to put up with, and that's the harsh regulations of the US environment. Now, because of that, their volumes have exploded. I mean, the number one reason why Binance's volumes are so high, actually, there's 2 major reasons. The first one is that they list basically everything, right? Like anything that's popular, they'll list, and they'll also add leverage products to it. So you're able to kind of get leverage on a multitude of different tokens for better or worse. Whereas Coinbase actually doesn't have leverage for retail users. They used to really early on, but they had to remove that because of regulatory pressures, I believe. But they also used to not really list many things. Now, these days, over the past few months especially, they've been listing more and more kind of tokens and coins. And I think that's fine. But at the end of the day, they are a source of legitimacy for this industry. They are the front door for a lot of people. So them listing something like SHIB just borders on kind of like listing scams to me. Now, I'm not saying SHIB is a scam or whatever, but it's completely pointless. It is definitely not something that people buy as an investment. As far as I know, they're buying it to gamble on it. And that's all well and good. And I'm not here to moralize and say what people should and shouldn't invest in or put their money into. But I don't know, I just thought this was weird. And that's why I kind of said here, the timeline where Coinbase lists SHIB is both amazing and horrifying. Amazing because it's just absolutely crazy, right? It's just funny to think about. It's just so different to what Coinbase was just a few years ago. And horrifying because it's basically lending legitimacy to these meme coins and tokens that really, at the end of the day, have no company behind them, have no project behind them, have no relevance to anything. They're just random tokens. It's very different to those meme stocks like GameStop and kind of AMC and stuff like that. Yes, they may get like way ahead of where they should be in terms of valuation, but at least there's a company behind it. At least there's a company with real products behind it. AMC has their movie theaters. GME has obviously GameStop with their video game kind of products. But when you kind of look at SHIB, it really is just like there's nothing attached to it as far as I know. Maybe they added stuff to it. Maybe they're trying to do stuff with it. I haven't kept up with it, but it was created a while ago. Actually, it wasn't even created recently. I believe it's over a year old at this point, and I'm pretty sure the original point of it was just to create this like meme token that had kind of like no point at the end of the day. So yeah, again, not here to moralize, but I think that in a world where essentially centralized exchanges are losing out to decentralized exchanges in terms of volumes, trading volumes, they have to list these assets, and it's kind of like it's kind of like this domino effect, or this, I guess maybe domino effect isn't the right analogy here, but it's kind of like this thing where, you know, these tokens will show up on Uniswap. There's literally thousands of these things. Only a few will kind of succeed in terms of like going up in price and things like that. And those are usually ones that are shilled on TikTok and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So those that will happen, and then, you know, they'll start getting like a market cap in the hundreds of millions. Their trading volumes will go up, and then the centralized exchanges will see this. So the smaller ones will start listing it first normally. So you know, your smaller centralized exchanges. Then you'll see the Binances and the FTXs of the world list it. Then finally, you know, you'll see Gemini, Kraken, Coinbase, all the US domiciled ones start listing it. So it's kind of funny because like Coinbase is really late to the party here. SHIB the SHIB mania is pretty much over at this point in time. I mean, at one point SHIB had over $1 billion of trading volume on Uniswap, but that's like long gone. I mean, that's gone with retail because the people trading that were retail investors, and they've all been flushed out by the recent kind of crab market that we've been having. So, yeah, that's kind of like my general views on this. As I said, not moralizing. I don't think that anyone should be able to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't kind of put their money into or trade. And I also think that everyone is responsible for their own financial decisions. But in saying that, by Coinbase listing these kind of like meme tokens, they're inviting more regulatory pressure in my mind. And obviously they went through their lawyers before they did this and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they would weigh it up and say, okay, well, you know, how much volume and how many new users could we get if we listed this thing versus, you know, the regulatory pressures that we're going to face. It probably ends up being worth it for them because they have a huge legal team on retainer anyway. So at the end of the day, even if the government comes after them, their legal team is just going to be there ready and waiting. And meanwhile, they can kind of profit off of this. So from that point of view, I guess for Coinbase, it's a win-win situation regardless. And I think we're just going to keep seeing more and more of this happen. So definitely be prepared for that. Be ready for it. Don't be surprised when Coinbase starts listing, you know, really random stuff. There's obviously other kind of like tokens like this, like Safe Moon, and there was one called Cum Rocket, which was the most brazen thing ever. But I don't know if Coinbase is going to list Cum Rocket. I mean, if they did, then I would be like, okay, something's going on here. What the hell? But SHIB, like, you know, if you compare SHIB to Cum Rocket, I think SHIB is a bit better. But just in terms of like, I guess branding, because that's all these are at the end of the day. They're just the branding and the memes. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to say there's a 0% chance of Coinbase kind of not listing those things, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So dYdX announced a massive fundraise yesterday. Their Series C, $65 million, led by Paradigm. This is the second, I believe, massive fundraise that Paradigm has led. They led the Starkware $75 million Series A or Series B recently, and you know they've led this one from dYdX. This is quite crazy actually, because dYdX, it's funny because dYdX's platform is powered by Starkware's technology. So Paradigm basically has exposure to both these kind of companies here. But Paradigm wasn't the only one that were part of this round. There was a bunch of other kind of like people that you will all know of, like CMS Holdings, who seems to be in everything, QCP Capital. These are liquidity providers. Some other crypto VCs like Hashkey, Electric Capital, Delphi Digital, and their partners like Starkware being investors as well. Besides the fundraise, the key thing here is that dYdX is going to be more than just a perpetual trading exchange. They want to be an exchange for DeFi in general, from my reading of this post here, which is really cool. They're saying that they're going to use the capital to decentralize the protocol, which means that a token is coming sooner rather than later. I don't know if they'll do a Series D fundraise here. Maybe Series C is it, then they'll launch a token. That token's going to be, that'll be one of the biggest token launches. I think it'll be on like Coinbase relatively quickly because dYdX is founded by Coinbase alum, and also the investors are like, have ties to Coinbase and stuff like that. So, not investment advice, but just some speculation there. But they also say they're going to be adding new assets and new features to the perpetual contracts, launch a mobile application, which, that's really cool. Partner with infrastructure players, bridging the gap between centralized and decentralized finance, and a bunch of other things like growing in Asia and continuing to hire and things like that. For those who don't know, dYdX is a layer 2 perpetual exchange right now. And that's why that's so interesting, because of the fact that their product is amazing. I mean, I don't know if you guys have used it. I've used it before. I mean, I'm not a trader and I'm not using it in any big way because I'll end up getting wrecked. But I've used it just to try it out and see kind of like, if it's living up to the hype here. And it really is. Starkware has built an amazing system that dYdX have tapped into and have built this amazing product. So highly recommend going and checking that out. But yeah, I guess congrats on this $65 million raise. That is huge. I don't think capital is scarce anymore. I think talent is. So I'm wondering how, successful dYdX and other teams that have raised this like kind of money recently are going to be in recruiting people, because I know from speaking to various people that right now there's a pretty big shortage in Solidity developers, and they're charging a lot of money to switch teams because at the end of the day, Solidity developers, because there's such a shortage, they have the option to go wherever they want. So I guess that's an alpha leak. Learn Solidity, become a Solidity developer, because you're going to be in high demand for years to come. So I mentioned the other day that Alchemix launched their alETH product. Well, today they basically announced that the alETH farm is now live. So you can basically go deposit your alETH into the Saddle liquidity provider pool here and earn quite a high APR on your ETH. Now, this 132% APR is not going to stay like this for very long. It's definitely going to come down, but I still think this is going to be one of the best ways, or at least one of the highest yielding ways to kind of like get a return on your ETH. So definitely go check this out. Now, as a related thing here, I did want to talk about some drama that I saw happen overnight with regards to Alchemix and Curve and Saddle. So for those who don't know, Saddle is pretty much like an AMM for similar assets like what Curve is, like for assets. And I believe Saddle copied or forked most of Curve's code, and a lot of people think that there's just really no point to Saddle Finance. It doesn't really need to exist because we already have Curve. Now, I'm not going to make any kind of like assertions on that. I don't really have any strong opinions on that. But what I do have an opinion on is Curve's kind of mafia tactics. So a bit of backstory here. What Alchemix tried to do is that they tried to go to Curve and do this LP pool on Curve instead of Saddle. Now, Curve basically said no because they didn't want Alchemix farming CRV tokens just to dump them, and that would hurt the price of CRV and things like that. So Alchemix was like, okay, well, if you're not going to have us with our alETH product, we're going to go to Saddle. Now, the Curve people didn't take kindly to this because of the fact that Saddle is a competitor. Saddle copied their code and all this sort of stuff there. So in retaliation, Curve, started some drama on Twitter, and then they also put up a proposal to take the rewards away from the ALUSD pool on Curve, which to me was just like extremely petty. I really don't like what I'm seeing from kind of Curve here. And honestly, the last time I checked, their governance process is kind of a sham because most of the tokens are most of the voting power is owned by the team anyway. So if the team really wanted to, I'm pretty sure they could just swing the vote whichever way they kind of please here. So yeah, there's a bit of drama there. And that's why you see alETH on Saddle and not Curve, whereas ALUSD is on Curve and not Saddle. Now, what I mean by on these platforms, I mean that, getting rewards. So alETH is still going to be on Curve, I believe, but it's just not going to get CRV rewards, whereas ALUSD currently does. But if that proposal goes through, they're not going to get those rewards anymore either, which is kind of shitty. But anyway, if you want to go earn a yield on your alETH, this is the best way to do so right now. So definitely go check this out. So Mohamed here announced that because EIP-1559 is coming very soon, himself and Marius are building a portal to visualize ETH fees being burned here. So the testnet has around 700 ETH burned, the testnet that EIP-1559 is on. So you can see here the little dashboard. So it's on GitHub, of course, all open source, and you can kind of like set it up in your own environment and kind of contribute to it if you want to. But this is really cool. I mean, I do think that when 1559 goes live, you're going to be seeing a lot of dashboards and a lot of tweets around how much ETH is being burned each day. Because even though gas fees are kind of cheap right now, I believe the Ethereum network is still doing on average over $5 million worth of fee revenue per day, which means that if like 70% of that is burned, that's still millions of dollars in ETH being burned each day. Now, at current kind of like gas fees and at current issuance under proof of work, it wouldn't lead to a deflationary ETH. I think I did the math on this, or someone I was talking to did the math on this, and if you take proof of work issuance and kind of like add in the fee burn, to make ETH deflationary, Gwei would have to be over 100 in proof of work. But under proof of stake, Gwei only needs to be 10, which is really cool. And this is at current ETH prices, of course. So that's really cool. But yeah, ETH is not going to be deflationary if gas prices stay this low. But I think that that's fine because really the point is that ETH is going to be deflationary in post-merge, like not during now, because right now we have 4.5% issuance under proof of work, which is huge. In proof of stake, once the merge goes through, we're going to have less than 1%, probably closer to 0.5%, depending on how much ETH is staked. So that is definitely going to mean that we can, just have to have 10 Gwei average gas prices and be able to go deflationary. So just something to keep in mind. I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check out the code and this dashboard. So the Aave Grants DAO announced their first set of grantees. So there's a bunch of projects that they've funded. Some of them you may be aware of, like Gelato Network, Flipside Crypto, Rabbit Hole. I'm just going through the ones that I'm aware of here, and a bunch of others that I hadn't heard of before. But this is really cool. I mean, I've spoken plenty of times about all these projects like Uniswap and Pull Together and Aave. I mean, there's so many of them. I'm not going to list them all off, but they all have grants programs now where they basically put up requests for products or requests for like research or whatever, and they'll pay out in kind of like Aave tokens or Pool tokens or whatever tokens or Uni tokens to people to build these things, to do this work. Now, this is, I think, what the future of funding open source is going to look like on Ethereum, at least one part of it. The other part of it, of course, is Gitcoin and Gitcoin grants and all that sort of stuff. So these grants DAOs, coupled with Gitcoin, is going to lead to a really, really awesome open source funding ecosystem here, I believe, because we haven't had this before. If you think about all the other open source software in, I guess, the non-crypto world, most of it really had no way to monetize, and it didn't have a token attached to it or anything like that. And a lot of it was just like, because it was open source, people could just download it for free. There was no kind of restrictions on it. Generally no restrictions on it. Sometimes there was licenses for commercial use and things like that, but just personal use and stuff like that, it was normally free to use. So from that point of view, we have all these crypto protocols now that have tokens attached to them, and they have massive treasuries. The Uni treasury is billions of dollars. So that treasury is not just going to sit there and do nothing. That's going to be paid out to contributors to the protocol, whether that be teams, building things that were requested by the grants DAO, or whether that be contributors to the core protocol itself, or whether that be just people working for the DAO as full-time, like in marketing, in BD, or whatever. So that's really, really cool to see. So yeah, I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check out all the kind of projects that Aave Grants DAO has funded here. But it's just really cool to see more projects getting kind of funded here. So Mahalo from Polygon quote tweeted this tweet from Paul Brody from EY, where he said Ernst Young blockchain suit is now integrated with Polygon. And Paul Brody made the original announcement where he said that blockchain.ey.com is now delivering tokens on the Polygon network here. So for their first individual user, Peroni. I don't know if that's the right account that he's tagged here. But anyway, and what this means is that you can seamlessly interface with blockchain.ey.com into Ethereum, Polygon, Fisco, because which is an open consortium chain here, and a bunch of other things like Consensus Quorum, and explore the Bitcoin blockchain. So I guess this is just more, enterprise adoption happening for crypto, for Ethereum, for Polygon, which is really, really cool to see. I mean, this is awesome. I think I've discussed this plenty of times before, where I've said that we're in the kind of like really early phase now where we have the individual users kind of like playing around with DeFi, with crypto, with Ethereum, with all these kind of products. And we haven't taken it to the next level yet of inviting these enterprises in a big way. And that's because of two main things, scalability and privacy. Now, Polygon obviously kind of like fixes the scalability thing here, or at least makes it better than Ethereum does, but it does not fix the privacy issues surrounding these blockchains. That's the next step. But the fact that these enterprises and are kind of like being dipping their toes in and doing like proof of concepts and stuff like that already is really, really cool. And for those who don't know, I mean, Paul Brody has been doing a lot of work at EY for many years now in terms of like getting them to adopt blockchain, and specifically getting them to adopt Ethereum and Ethereum kind of aligned products here like Polygon and other scalability solutions and things like that. So this is just super cool to see. So yeah, I mean, I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check it out for yourself on Etherscan since it's linked here. I'm hoping to see more about this in the near future. So another really awesome thing that happened, that I saw happen overnight, was that Alexandra Botzed, the chess player, championship chess player, some of you may know her when she versed Vitalik live on Twitch a few months ago, but she started a new podcast with someone from the Ethereum community, Topher Benson here, called ByteSizedEth. Now, this podcast is all about making learning about Ethereum really accessible for everyone. So it's definitely for beginners, which I think is really, really cool because, you know, as I've said in the past, the Daily Gwei ecosystem is definitely not for beginners. Pretty much like most of the stuff that I put out is definitely for people that are already in the ecosystem but just want to keep up with everything. And I don't think I'm going to do things that are for beginners too much. I'll probably do things like every now and again. I do want to do it, but generally I don't have enough time to do everything. So I'm really glad to see someone else taking it up here. Like Bankless does a lot too, don't get me wrong, the Defiant and stuff like that. But the difference is with Alexandra is that she has a completely different audience to myself and the other ones that I just mentioned, because she is not a quote-unquote crypto native. She didn't start in crypto. She has a massive following and massive fan base in the chess world, in the kind of like outside of crypto world, and she's going to work to bring in more new people than even someone like me or even someone like Bankless can, I believe. So that's why I'm really excited about this. So in saying that, you can go check this out. It will link to in the YouTube description. Their first episode was just basically describing what is Ethereum and going through all that. I had to listen to it. It was really, really cool. I think that they're going to do more of these, obviously, and I just can't wait to see what they come up with and how they explain things, because, as I said, at the end of the day, we need more beginner-friendly stuff for Ethereum, and I think we need it not only from crypto natives, but people outside of crypto as well. So, yeah, go check this out if you haven't already. So Trent Van Epps put out some, resources about 1559 for developers, essentially. So I guess if you're involved with any kind of middleware or user-facing kind of like tools within Ethereum, and you need to kind of like update those tools for EIP-1559, these resources are going to be your Bibles, essentially. So if you're that person or you're part of a team or whatever, and you need these resources, these will be linked in the YouTube description. I just wanted to give a quick shout out here. But I also wanted to talk about one other thing when it comes to 1559. This poll is just hilarious to me, because I'll just read out this poll for those listening, because you probably don't want to know what I'm talking about yet. But Philippe from Horizon Games here put out a poll where he said, he asked, what's the main benefit of EIP-1559? Now, the four options were reducing ETH supply, lower gas prices, MEV tax, or better transaction inclusion user experience. Now, when I voted on this poll, it was basically had like no votes to it. It had like maybe 10 votes or something like that. And I voted for better transaction inclusion user experience, because in my mind, that is the main benefit of 1559. But I also made a comment here saying that I was retweeting it for visibility, but I already know which option is going to win. Now, of course, the reducing ETH supply option won. Why did it win? I mean, it should be obvious. That part of EIP-1559 is what got the most attention and got the most marketing. Pretty much whenever you saw people talking about 1559, unless it was people like me who are really in the weeds, they were only focusing on the burn aspect. And that's fine. I think I don't have a problem with that. But because of that, it has led to people thinking that and I've seen some prominent developers in this ecosystem thinking that that was the whole point of 1559, when in reality that wasn't the point of this. And I went through this like a few weeks ago when I was responding to Taylor Monahan's thread on this, but really the main benefit has always been better transaction inclusion, user experience, essentially a better fee market, user experience for end users. And these end users are not just me and you, these are developers too, like and people building smart contracts that need to be able to kind of like get good estimations on gas prices and easy estimations, and also be able to do things around the fee market and things like that. So from that point of view, I kind of like, I'm not surprised that the reducing ETH supply is what people most know. And you can kind of look at the other options. I mean, third place was lower gas prices, which again was never a benefit of 1559. It was never sold as lower gas prices, but that was another thing that I saw people talking about. And then the fourth thing is MEV tax here, which I believe most people just don't know what this means. So that's why I guess like it wasn't voted for. But yeah, I mean, as kind of like unsurprising as it is to see, I still think it's a little bit sad, because it means that essentially, I mean, maybe not sad, maybe sad is the wrong word, but it just essentially means that people think that just because most people think that the main benefit is that it reduces ETH supply, that makes it true. I don't think it makes it true, because the crowd is wrong here. The main benefit is the user experience upgrades, not the reducing ETH supply. But I don't think that one takes away from the other, because I've gone through all of 1559's benefits before, but it has like 4 or 5 key benefits to it. And just because reducing ETH supply is what most people know about, doesn't take away from the other benefits. So why are we even, like, really, why are we even focusing on this? I know I'm talking about it right now, but generally, why are people so kind of like focused on this? It's absurd, really. I just don't get it. It's like people are trying to win a narrative war here that there shouldn't even be a war over this. Really, at the end of the day, 1559 was not included in the network because it reduced the ETH supply. That is not the main reason. It was included for, I mean, that was one kind of reason, and that was one thing that people latched onto. But a big reason it was included was because of the fact that it had these other benefits to it as well, like the better user experience, potentially making gas fees lower by smoothing out the gas fee mechanism, and the MEV tax, which is basically just referencing the fact that with kind of like MEV and with Flashbots right now, miners don't have to pay ETH to the network to base in fees. They can just take a fee outside of the network, whereas with EIP-1559 they can't do that for the base fee, which is the portion that's burned. And then the other benefit is that developers, smart contract developers, and layer 2 developers get better kind of like estimations and better certainty on when their transactions are going to be included into a block because of this new fee market mechanism here. So yeah, hopefully that kind of like, I just gives more context to this. Maybe you saw this poll because I did retweet it, so I'm assuming that a lot of you saw this, but I think it's just important to go over where, I guess, like the narratives and the actual truth diverge here, because we're in a, I hate this term, but we're in a post-truth world where essentially the truth and facts come secondary to the narratives and the marketing and the everything like that. Because at the end of the day, most people only care about what's sold to them, the marketing and things like that. And most people only hear about that, and that's what happened with 1559 and the reducing ETH supply here. But anyway, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you all for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.